Hello and welcome. Today I have with me the creator of Public's favorite event ever, H 2022, Eirik Holdal. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm extremely good. I'm extremely happy, but I'm also, I guess, extremely tired and exhausted after this project. But it's finally nice to be here, and it's a pleasure to be interviewed by you.
Maybe let's start with how are you feeling after the event? Happy, exhausted, but are you satisfied with what you accomplished?
I'm more than satisfied with what I've accomplished. Like I said, once I was driving to the event on Sunday, I didn't know what to say because I didn't expect it to be going that well. I was just expecting something to fail, so I can say that okay, I was speaking too big words. I took too much at hand. But since I hired the best people in the world to do this and to help me out, then everything was going good. So now it's already meetings after meetings to see how big can we do it next time because all of our partners, all of our politicians are like, let's do it again. And most importantly, the players and the local young people here in Meloy wants to see it again. So it's no rest. It's just going right back to work and using the hype to secure another edition.
We'll get back to the next edition a little later. Now I want to stay a little bit on this edition,
Sure.
this year's H 2022. What were your goals for this event? Like some bullet points you wanted to achieve to call this event successful.
Uh, to show that it's possible to have commercial sponsors in Trackmania, to show that it's possible to do big events in Trackmania, is, or to say, the most interesting part, I guess, for the Trackmania community, is that I wanted to show that it's possible. For the local community, it's basically to show that it's possible to do big international events, even though it's a small place where people shouldn't be able to travel to. But if you make it a fun enough thing to experience, then they will travel here. So that's the main thing to show that it's possible. What's the goal? And that is also why I was expecting to say I'm sorry because I was showing it was possible, but maybe someone else had to do it that had more experience running events to make it ideally edition. But now I have accomplished more than I could ever hope for, and the bullet points are check marked. So
Yeah, you wanted to say like you're sorry. Like, were you expecting something to go badly, or were you calm before it?
I mean, I'm people ask me all the basically ever since I announced it if I was nervous, but I'm not a nervous guy because even though let's say something went horribly wrong, like we had to cancel two of our four activities, I cannot say that I cannot control that, and if the internet was wrong and if I production didn't live up to expectations, I could not even control that itself because I was the first time I do this. So I was never nervous because I have tried at least. I have created attention to Jackmania. I have created attention to my home village. So even though that this would have been a failure in my eyes and to maybe the people watching it, I would still have accomplished what I wanted, and that was to show that this is a viable solution to host events. So that is why I maybe said sorry, but I never felt like nervous. And even if I had to cancel it, I would still be like, okay, I tried at least.
We pretty much know how the idea started a year and a half ago. You wanted to help your hometown and make an event connected to your roots. But like, what was your first vision of this event? What was? How did you envision that at first, and how did that evolve over time?
First idea was to. I have, for people that don't know, I have traveled to events since 2018. Had a long break due to COVID, and then the impression was that the players was not at hype as me when I went to Paris for the first time because the likes of Carl, Spam, etc. It was probably the 10th time they visited, and I was like, okay, how can you make it fun where you go? How can you make it as an experience for the players who go? So, and then it was just I have everything here. I have all the nature. I have all the activities. I can just invite them to my hometown. So that was basically the idea, and to make sure that I cover it. So the fans of Carl, the fans of Brent, the fans of if Serrator was coming, then they would maybe see that it's possible to come here. So it was basically a marketing stunt for my home village, but also a way of giving back to the players that I have. They have helped me so much in my career. It's time to give something back to them. It's time to give something back to the community. So basically, to how can I make both parts happy, and it seems like somewhat I succeeded with that, and I'm just extremely happy for that.
Hmm. What were your first steps in creating this event? Because when I think about it, if I wanted to create something like that, I wouldn't even know where to start. So what a person has to do to create event like that?
You basically have to find out who is the correct people to contact, and I mean that is hard. And people ask me, how do I get interviews in Trackmania? And I guess you can experience the same thing. I mean, how I got started in doing interviews is being shameless. I slide into every DM. Spam people to say, okay, please help me. Please make our game better. And this was basically the idea here as well. I made a phone call to the people who is helping entrepreneurs, who's helping companies improve. And I said, I have an idea. I have a network. I think this can be something. And she said, okay, this is really good. You need to contact the mayor. You need to contact some other people that can give you a financial backing. I called the mayor, and like I said on stage, it took 2 minutes until he was like, okay, let's make this a reality. So they know who to contact to make sure that this is good. I just have the idea. So eventually, if you call enough people and find the correct people in your area or region, or if you want to do it somewhere else, they will help you out. So if I did it in Oslo, for example, I need to make a phone call to maybe someone in the esports scene of Oslo to see what do
Mhm.
you know about this that I don't know. Who is the people we need as a team?
What would you say was the most difficult thing on your way to creating Age 2022?
Uh, if people recall the interview I did with Overtake in Berlin, I said that every step on the way has been so easy. And to be honest, it was pretty much easy until we entered 2022. I had
Mhm.
all the mayor, I had the European Capital of Culture that will be hosted in 2024, but they still wanted to help out in 2022. I had a big salmon sponsor, but then it was like maybe a 6 to 8 month break of getting a new big sponsor. I had pretty much 50 meetings with big international commercial sponsors, national sponsors. The the struggle is to convince them that this
Mhm.
is something to do. They're like, okay, maybe we don't understand esport, and if they understood esport, they're like, okay, how do you want that mixed with the local community? So the hardest part is basically to get the financial funding, and I guess that's clear if you have followed the journey ever since October when I announced it that I said I wanted to beat the 2006 record of prize pool. I had sadly to cancel that. If not, I had to
Mhm.
cancel pretty much the whole event. So the financial backing is the biggest problem, and the risk. That is the key thing I need to figure out now. Who can help me? Because if it's the same budget, I won't do it. It's too big of a risk. I have earned $0 on it, and it's basically not worth it if the commercial sponsors don't see this as something that is insanely great for the players, the kids, and Norway as a whole.
Mhm. So you would say that this was the reason for the price pool lowering from 50K to 30K. When did you like
Yeah,
realize that it won't be happening? Because that's something that was a big point of it, like the biggest price pool in Trackmania's history, and now we almost cut it in half. This was the reason. When did you like realize it was not happening?
I guess I was realizing that let's say May because people had said in March already you need to have 100% of the budget to make sure that this is a success and to make sure that this is not something you have to cancel. And I'm saying, okay, sure, give me 1 more month. And 1 more month went, and I didn't have the money. And then they said, okay, now it's May. You basically need to either really reevaluate your budget or you need to say that this is not gonna be uh,
Hmm.
an event. And if I had to cancel it, I think I would never do it again because then the players have already hyped up so much. You had so many spectators coming here, used so much of their own money to get here, and I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to give up for that was the worst thing that could happen. So I said, okay, I need to cut down the prize pool. If not, this had to be cancelled.
Hmm.
I didn't want to cut down production because I think that okay, maybe you pay out 50K this year and you cut down the production, then the chances of getting potentially 50K for the next 10 years is so much lower than then you have to maybe don't have an event. So the good thing was that I was ballsy and said I had 50K because then I had 50K in the budget that I could make an easy cost to or a cut to. Sorry. So it is what it is. It's of course something I didn't want to happen, but still, if you look at the biggest prize pools in the newest Trackmania, it's still Arctic Gaming Experience. So I hope at least I proved the point that it's possible to do. bigger prize pool, at least in Trackmania, even though we are still far away from other esport titles.
The other mishap about this event, I'd say, was handful of players declining the invitations. Like
Yep.
we've had the four I know about are like Mime, Granady, Mada, and Masa. Even though he came around in the end, I don't know if there were more. Maybe you
Yep.
can tell us. But
Sure.
how did you react to that? How did you react to that? Was it frustrating? And yeah, just how did it look behind the scenes?
So the first guy I contacted was in February 2021. It was Carl Jr. because he's the biggest profile. If I get Carl, um, then I get a weight in the meetings with sponsors and politicians that you
Hmm.
have the biggest player of all time coming. And he was really on board. I asked some of the others for feedback before I started inviting. They were really also liking it. And then once you went to like Gwen is one of the invited players. He was one of the first, I guess, at least maybe fourth or fifth I invited. There was some internal discussions with him and his team that I don't really know about.
Hmm.
I don't know how motivated Gwen is. So he is invited, and Aurel, I guess, is also one of the invited players that didn't. He was not able to come. Granadi had did exams
Exams.
that
Hmm.
was not exactly. Mara, I guess, was burned out after his insane performance at World Cup and traveling again. And the same was with mine, from what I
Yeah.
understand. He was also burned out. So it's not something I can control. It's not like I'm going to say that, okay, you're never going to be invited again, because it's 100% understandable. I'm just extremely happy for the people that actually believed in me for a week. You ask players to come to Norway, a place they probably never visited before,
Hmm.
for a week for a project that I have never hosted before. So it's not. I just want to invite the best players, and the likes of Mime and Mara was, of course, because of the World Cup performance. Gwen because of he is. I think still, if he really wants to be the best player, I think he can be the goat in the future, and so that's it. And but
Hmm.
if you think I was demotivated by it, no, I just have to make quick turnarounds. But that's sadly in resulted in, like, say, Spam and Massa and the likes of them, who was actually preparing for a qualifier, maybe they then had to be invited. So I guess I understand if it looks a bit scuffed that some got a late um, invite, and I guess you
Yeah.
can see that by only 7 being invited, that
Yeah.
I was
Like
not able to
that's
invite everybody.
that's something I wanted to ask. Like, what was there a plan B in case you couldn't get enough people to accept the invite? Because, well, there was a plan B in place because final chance at qualifiers, it wasn't there at first.
Yeah.
But what was your plan B, plan C for scenarios when only 5 people accepted or 6 people accepted?
I guess you just have to make the best of it. I didn't. Luckily, I'm not the guy who thinks really about the worst case scenarios
Hmm.
until it actually arrives. I think I'm pretty good at dealing with problems once they arrive. Um, but I guess we were really close to maybe some players not being able to come. You can see it in the qualifiers that some players pulled out, because it is expensive to go to Norway if you don't have a team backing you up, and if you don't have an event organization that can pay for everything, which I sadly couldn't for this edition. Then you limit the market of players that can actually come. So if we ended up with maybe 12 players coming, then I just have to make the best format for it. And luckily, I have Draconia on board that probably would have found a viable solution for that, because Masa was like, okay, if you get like 10 players, are you still hosting the event? I said, of course. I'm not going to cancel it just because I don't get all the players I needed. I'm just going to make the best of it. So and I think that's something I'm good at, making the best of it. And if you have the right people to play with, then it's gonna be good anyway.
And it was great. And you have already announced that there will be next edition, and like people are probably wondering, like, will Arctic Gaming Experience always be bound to Meloy, or will this event outscale this town at some point? Like, what is your end goal with this event?
For the people that followed ever since I announced it, it was called Trackmania Melee in the start. People still somewhat call it Trackmania Melee, and they still maybe call the event Melee.
Hmm.
That was just a project idea for. In my head, it was to do it one time to show that it was possible again to do this like a marketing stunt. And then I wanted all the Trackmania people to know that Melee is the place, and I wanted all of Melee to know that Trackmania is the game. But then my advisors, the partners was like, okay, why do you want to do this one time, because the one time to do something is the hardest. Why don't you try to make this your future job? And I was like, because I didn't ever think about it. I just
Mhm.
wanted to make this the one time thing. And then I wanted to change the name to Arctic Gaming Experience. It's not longer bound to just Trackmania. It's no longer just bound to Meloy. But I want to see with the companies in Meloy that said do this one time and we can maybe make it bigger next time before I want to explore the next things. And for people that is scared that now I said that it's not only bound to Trackmania, I still love Trackmania the most. I don't know anything about other games at the moment,
Mhm.
so don't be scared that Trackmania is thrown out of the window unless something really strange happens. So the future goal is to make this a yearly event, maybe twice a year, and a full-time job for myself. Because I think you can see during this weekend, if you were at the venue or if you were on stream, that Trackmania is an amazing game. The kids at the venue had never seen Trackmania before, and already after the first match, they were like, "I need to get a selfie with these guys because this is insane." So I think this weekend just proved how great Trackmania is, and that just gives me more motivation to do more events, because if they don't even understand Trackmania before entering the venue, they still leave with a feeling of never wanting to miss out on a Trackmania event that is happening around them.
So, just I'm gonna ask to make it clear because at one point you're saying that you change the name because it's not only one-time thing, and you're changing IDs and like that. But then you're saying that you uh, this event is bound to Meloy but not to Trackmania, which is kind of a curveball. So, in the end, is it always been gonna be in Meloy or
No,
in this venue? No, it's not gonna be. Okay.
because like Buda 2024 is the European capital of culture. We have the region of Nordland, that is Nordland County. That's biggest sponsor as well is Nordland County, and they say we need eventually you need to move it around
Mhm.
because how even though our glacier is perfect, even though we didn't get the chance to walk on the glacier, you can only do it so much, so
Yeah.
many times before the likes of Carl and Bren, etc. thinks, okay, now I have experienced
Yeah.
it 5 times. How much fun is it going to be for the 6th time? I don't want this to be another Paris where every year they're like a little bit less hyped. I rather want to move it around, and then maybe once we come back to Melee, they're like, oh, now it's time to re-explore Melee. But for now, the next edition is I want it to be Melee because we had to
Mhm.
cancel 2 of the 4 days of activities. We basically had yellow warning for flood, yellow warning for mudslide. So it was horrendous weather once they visit. So I really want to do it again in Melee. But if the Melee companies or the local companies are not on board, and now I've proven that you can do it anywhere in the world. So I'll just move it around to make sure that at least the next edition is also hosted at least.
Thank you very much for the interview. Do you have anything you want to say to the viewers?
Just insane to see how many people are grateful for what I've done. It's the main one of the main reasons why I'm still in Trackmania. I was thinking about maybe leaving Trackmania, but I really want to help Trackmania as much as possible. And sadly, I could not do that as a journalist because eventually I have so little free time, and I want to find a job that I can work full time in Trackmania and make this a reality. And that is not because it is, of course, because I love the game so much, but it's more because I love the community so much. Because I feel like even though I announce something big, something bold, people like believing in me. So I can only wish and thank the Trackmania community as much as I possibly can for making this a reality, because I felt on every step of the way I had the community behind me, and now I feel like I really also have the community behind me for the next event. So we have the best community in the world, and that is why we are still around.
And we want to thank you for this event. And to all the viewers, as always, you can find all the links to Eirik's socials in the description. Thank you very much for watching. And if you enjoyed, I invite you to leave a like and subscribe for more interviews in the future. Thank you very much.